Hey everyone, you know the government a bunch of broke motherfuckers. Man, I don't even think they know how to think about it. Imagine if you try to live under this pretense, right? Where you spent way more than you bring in continuously. Except it wasn't just your family, your immediate family that had to suffer as a result of your reckless spending. It was entire geographical landmasses filled with millions of people, men, women, and children, all involved. Well, that's what it is to be a central planner. Like I say, these fuckers are control freaks and sociopaths. But you want to know how far they'll go to take every last penny that they can from you. Well, look no further than this CBC News under the politics section. GST on carbon taxes in Alberta and BC worth millions in revenue. Yeah, no, that's not it. No, I wish that was a mistake in the headline. Like, damn, no, it's not a smudge. It's not a misprint. It's just the actual headline. GST, which GST stands for Goods and Service Tax, on carbon taxes. So, a tax on tax. So they're now, not only are they looking to plunder, the Canadian people or corporations, although that's, you might as well just say the Canadian people, because corporations will pass that cost on to the people. So the corporations, because it's a legal fictional entity created by legislation, created by government, that has no liability. They're like, a corporation can't be held liable. What is a corporation? Like I said, it's like saying, oh, we're going to hold the Easter Bunny liable. Well, good luck finding the Easter Bunny and holding them liable, or her, right? In this modern world, better say him or her, right? But of course, just like saying that the government, it's like the Easter Bunny, but who's going to be forced to pay for all these taxes? Well, the working poor, as usual. The ones that don't have a way, like even the wealthy. It won't be the wealthy, even if you're not a corporation. If you're wealthy or a government crony or something, or even a government worker, you know all the ins and outs. You're an inside trader, you're an inside speculator, you're an insider completely. So you know all the ways, the methods and means to not be held accountable or not have to pony up for all these kind of fucking ridiculous endeavors, political endeavors. So like I say, it's always handed off, it's always pawned off to the working poor, the working class, the blue collar folks. And even some white collar folks, right? But predominantly the working poor. Yeah, a tax on a tax. They're going to tax taxes. The GST would also be applied to goods and services affected by Ontario, Quebec, and Quebec cap and trade. So Alberta, BC, Ontario, Quebec. Well, it'll be rampant, widespread all across the country because, of course, a government, central planners and rulers that look to dictate and control by arbitrary edict and plunder your wealth to the point of right up until the point they'll plunder your wealth right up to the point where you will stand in actual violent opposition. Just before that point, that's where they'll stop. But they've been pushing that goalpost so far, they feel emboldened. Now it's like, I guess people won't stand up at any point in time. So now let's just tax on top of their taxes. Why not? They seem to be willing to put up with it. Bunch of sheeple. The federal government stands to raise as much as $280 million in revenue off provincial carbon taxes in Alberta and BC in the next 2 years, despite claims carbon taxes would be revenue neutral for Ottawa. That's all lies. You mean the shit they told you when they were running to be your ruler? Yeah, and you believe that stuff? Oh, man. I got some oceanfront property in Arizona I want to sell you if that's the case. Both Prime Minister Justin Trudeau and Environment Minister Catherine McKenna have long insisted Ottawa would collect no revenue from the carbon price the federal government is requiring the provinces and territories imposed by 2018. So that's just next year, folks. However, a new report from the Library of Parliament shows federal coffers stand to benefit financially when the 5% GST is applied on top of carbon taxes built into the price of goods and services such as gasoline or utilities. So, yeah, like I say, your gas prices, and we're already seeing it now. Look at the gas prices now. They're getting closer, creeping up closer and closer to the point what they were when oil prices were almost triple what they are today. But like I say, they're looking out in the landscape. Hey, Canadians seem to be fine with it. Let's push it a little further. Let's push that goalpost a little further. Canadians are sheepish. They're docile. They're conformists. They won't say nothing. And they're right for the most part. 'cause because you keep proving it to them. 'Cause 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 you That's where the federal government suddenly gets rich off Canadians, says BC Conservative MP Mark Warara, who requested the report. In April 2016, the Canada Revenue Agency said provincial carbon taxes would be subject to GST. Warara asked the library to find out how much Ottawa stood to gain as he prepared a private member's bill to reverse the CRA's decision. Last week, the answer came back as much as $130 million this year and $150 million next year in Alberta and BC, the two provinces where carbon taxes are already in place. Those numbers represent 5% each of the annual cost of the carbon tax in those provinces, $1.3 billion BC per year, and Alberta $1.3 billion 2017-2018, and $1.7 in 2018-2019, an average of $1.5 billion. The federal government has not yet responded to requests for comment. Either if they do, you know what kind of comment you're going to get, some kind of political fucking bullshit narrative that even if the reporter asks them 2 or 3 times, which they only maybe follow-up question maybe once, and then they just listen to it. No matter how stupid, how retarded the answer is, they just let them go with it. They softball these questions, and then when the politicians give them a softball bullshit answer, while the media fucks, hey, I'm getting a paycheck, why would I step outside of the bounds and make myself uncomfortable or in opposition to political leaders? I might want to cozy up and benefit from the later in stage of game, right? Thank goodness, like I say, people like Glenn Greenwald and people that are actually true, genuine investigative journalists, people like Dim Pool, it's all about being an adversary. You're not supposed to cozy up to government or even get aligned with them. Your whole duty, your whole responsible as an investigative journalism is to hold these fuckers to account and responsible for their actions and their deeds, which you're not because you benefit from it too, especially in Canada because a lot of our media personalities benefit directly from that forced wealth redistribution model that happens as a result of central planning governments, such as the federal government. I'll share this article in the video description below so you can continue on and read what's left in it. To me, I think we cover the most pertinent points in it. But yeah, a tax on top of a tax. That's how far we have sunk. Or not we. I mean, well, fuck. I already know, and I'll find many ways, and I'll manage just fine to avoid all this bullshit, or the overwhelming majority of this bullshit. They won't be enriching themselves from me. I can guarantee you that, factually. Because I'm much smarter than the average bear. Maybe it's time for the rest of you Canadians to stop benefiting and filling up the coffers. Stop being mindlessly obedient sheeple to the ruling class so they stop enriching themselves at your detriment. Right? I think that's imperative of you. If you have any self-esteem or any confidence, or you want to, be an example for your children and show them how to stand in opposition against bullies, well, this is the best way to do so. Because the central planners, governments, these control freaks and sociopaths are the biggest bullies on the block. You need to recognize and realize that fact. It's Canadian Libertarian, and I love liberty.